Hello Internet, and welcome to Ramblings of a Madman. I'm Alex, and I'm joined by Sean and Stuart for a shallow and probably uninformed dive into unexplained mysteries, conspiracy theories, and the supernatural. How are we all doing today? You okay, Sean?
I'm good, thanks, mate. Good to be back again.
Nice. And Stuart?
Yeah, excellent as always. Thanks, mate. How are yourself?
I am very cold. It's getting chilly in November/December of Britain, so I figured that the best thing to do would be to go somewhere warmer. So I said to Sean, go away, do some research, find a nice warm mystery for us. And he said, do you know what, I'm going to take
I've searched the Titanic.
Yeah. We're going to do Titanic today, the freezing cold waters of the North Atlantic. Going to be glorious.
Not quite.
We've done ships enough. We've done our ship quota for the year, I think.
We have done that ship quota, we have.
So instead...
We've also done a shit quota.
No, there's no end to that. That's unlimited.
Okay.
We're on unlimited plan for the ship quota. But instead, he said, I'm going to take you to Egypt. I found some cool pyramid mysteries, and it can't be as bad as what we've already done.
We'll see.
There's time yet.
You heard right. It's a Sean episode today. I get to sit back and listen to another madman talk, and while I try and craft theories in my head to explain what he's telling me. So I'll give the floor to you if you want, Sean.
Yeah, I'll take it away. Okay, so when we first started this podcast, I've been quite, pessimistic to a lot of the ideas that have come out. I've tried to, obviously the whole point of this podcast is to analyse and discuss the theories that are put towards us. So when I first saw this one, again, speculative, didn't really like the idea of it, watched the video, changed my mind. I actually changed my mind. I'm actually really excited to talk about this. It just seems to have a really fun, interesting take on it. So it's about the pyramids. This video in particular is about the Great Pyramid of Giza. What do you guys know of the pyramids?
Do you know what? I don't know much about them. I know they're big, and they built them to bury the pharaohs in, I guess, or the nobles of that time. And they were presumably built by slaves, although that seems to be quite debated nowadays. But, pretty much I know about, the Howard Carter stuff when they were excavating them for the first time and stealing all the riches out of them. But besides that, not much, really.
Okay, Stu?
I would probably say that I know a similar amount to Alex. So kind of know that the purpose of it was obviously a resting place for pharaohs. The rest of my knowledge is exclusively driven by playing Assassin's Creed.
Okay.
And also, their aliens are related to them in some way. They're like helipads for aliens, I assume.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
big,
because it's easy to land on the pointy thing, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Right, okay, so you mentioned, both of you said they're basically glorified tombs for dead pharaohs.
Yeah.
Right, that's what the current belief is by modern historians, like Egyptologists, whatever. The video that I saw has a different claim. It goes on about how it's completely unique architecture, right? Amazing feats of engineering, but they have no characteristics of a tomb, like the ornate artwork, sealed entrances, artifacts, no coffins or mummies. Well, coffins, okay, yeah, we'll get to that, like sarcophagi.
Sarcophagi are the coffins, aren't they?
Yeah, so we'll get to that. However, a lot of, and you'll see where I'm leading to this, a lot of the materials used to build the pyramids are actually the same materials we use for electrical conductivity today.
Oh. Like copper and things like that?
No. We'll get to that. So this video claims, or this channel, or this company, whatever, claims that the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt is a giant power plant.
Okay. Interesting.
Like Dorado in Overwatch, the big pyramid power plant.
Yeah. But yeah, quite a good reference actually. So I'm guessing maybe they got this kind of idea from it as well. Because I don't know how popular this theory is. I just literally, the video popped up on Facebook. I wanted to host one of these episodes, listen to the video, thought, screw it, that's actually me sold. Like on the idea of at least trying to present it to you guys. So there's apparently 118 pyramids in Egypt alone. So just in Egypt. But obviously the Great Pyramid is the massive, huge one. So basically trying to comprehend the build of the pyramid. Like you said, it's quite debated. It's presumed, slaves, blah, blah, blah. But modern judgments say that it would have taken at least 20 years to build, if no less than 20,000 workers worked daily without tiring by modern estimates.
So it's 20 years to build the Great Pyramid, not any of the other pyramids as well.
I think it meant 20 years, but it wasn't 100% clear. But either way, if it's one or all of them, 20 years, if every single day, no less than 20,000 workers work daily without tiring.
Yeah, that's a lot of labour.
Did you say with modern techniques as well?
With modern estimates.
Oh, right. So
of what they would have done.
Techniques,
Yeah, because trying to work out how they would have been able to do it, there's a lot of speculation. And there's some of the videos, after I watched this first video, I looked more into it. There's a lot of videos that are just far-fetched. But using engineering, a massive, huge stone blocks that weigh a couple of tons each or whatever, using like winches and stuff like that, like I leverage, that kind of thing. I'm not an engineer. I want to point that out. So I've never done any kind of mechanical maths or anything like that, or physics, whatever. But obviously the idea of if you can roll it onto like a log or something, obviously you keep putting the logs in front of it. That kind of method is what they're kind of referring to and what they presume that they would have used. Right, okay.
I guess maybe animals as well. They get animals.
Yeah.
Squids.
Squids. Giant squid.
That's a squid reference for this episode.
In the middle of the Sahara.
Early.
Yeah. Squid quota fulfilled.
Right, so the main thing about all this is there's no proof on how or when the pyramids were built.
Okay.
There's no, writings or anything like that around the time?
No. So somewhere later in the video, it does mention that, saying that there's no, you get a lot of carvings and then paintings on the walls in hieroglyphics, stuff like that, and visual depictions of stuff. There's no reference to the pyramids or the building of the pyramids, allegedly. I'm just going off.
Not even on the pyramids themselves.
Well, no. This is the thing. So what I was saying before is that there's no characteristics of tombs, so there's no ornate artwork or anything like that.
Well, I've seen pictures of pyramids inside, and they usually have like quite ornate hieroglyphics and stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking that the images that you see, but I don't know whether or not that applies to every other pyramid. The Giza pyramid may be different? I'm not sure.
Exactly. So
maybe
it wasn't 100% clear in the video, but that's what it claims. So it specifically in the Great Pyramid, there's no artwork, but we'll get to that later. There is some stuff. Okay. Why was it so important to build it? If it has nothing in common with regular tombs, surely, if you've seen a picture of the Great Pyramid of Giza, it is massive. It's huge. It's too big for a cadaver, right? I know, obviously, the way the hierarchy probably worked, surely they had a lot of reverence for these pharaohs, or, out of fear at least, to create this massive thing. But for such a massive work, it just sounds unbelievable. And the more I think about it, like, we make statues these days. Surely with our technology, we could make bigger stuff.
Yeah.
So why would they have made it specifically for a human being, even if it was a pharaoh, no matter what? Why would they have built it to be a tomb?
So I looked it up. Originally, it was 156.5 meters.
It's quite big.
Which is 481 feet. And it's now a little shorter because I guess some of it's collapsed. But
yeah, there's a lot of weathering that's happened, and we'll get to it later, but there was actually a capstone on top of it. So this video points out that a lot of historians believe that ancient civilizations were way more primitive. Or rather, this video says, why wouldn't they have known this modern stuff? And then it's possible that they could have lost the knowledge. And then we believe that they never had this knowledge, if you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Because there isn't references to it, we assume that the knowledge was lost. But you could come to the conclusion that they never had it in the first place.
Yeah.
So just because, let's say the pyramid was used as a power plant, isn't it possible that that information would have been lost?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So 100%.
Getting back to that then, history says that Edison and Tesla are the main leaders in electricity. They actually fought off against each other. There was a bit of a rivalry, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm.
But however, in Iraq, there were artifacts found in 1934, dating from 2,000 years ago. There was found a ceramic pot a tube of copper, and a rod of iron. Obviously, when combined with acid, they can create an electrical current. So it was known as the Baghdad or Parthian battery. Obviously, it was never proven to work, but that idea, those things, that's what basically makes a battery. You would have been able to make voltage out of that.
Yeah, I think I saw that on Mythbusters. I'm pretty sure they did an episode on it. And I remember them tearing it apart. Like, they had to set up, like, an array to get any sort of power.
Yeah, they only make a few volts. I think 10 years later after it was discovered, so 1944, it was recreated with grape juice, and they did actually manage to produce a few volts. And again, like you said, it was shown on Mythbusters. It's very easy to replicate now. You can go onto the internet and then order your own kit to do it, like a science kit. Yeah. Everyone knows that now.
DIY.
So why is Edison and Tesla presumed to have discovered electricity when we know that we found proof of a battery, basically, as primitive as it is?
Mm-hmm. But again, this is one example of a battery. Like, it's not. We're not seeing widespread use of this sort of thing. It might have been one guy who was a genius at that time who made it himself and didn't really do anything with it.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I guess the other thing is, are Edison and Tesla attributed with the discovery of electricity in terms of its understanding rather than its actual production, if you see what I mean? So people might have known how to create what seems like electricity, but the actual physical understanding of how voltage, current, resistance works, things like that, did they all come from them? Was it the actual science behind it, or the physics that came from the guys that we say they are the people responsible for making it understood? It's probably been discovered for, I guess, thousands of years. It would fit in, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're more creative with the application of it into useful things like light bulbs.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So it's not necessarily that, they probably just made this, but they didn't know how to use it.
Yeah.
But then it comes back to, why would they make let's say that the pyramids are power plants. Why would they put so much effort into building them if they didn't know how to use it?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
So, after all that, historians still assume that ancient civilizations had no knowledge, but they've also proven that 2,000 years ago they did have at least knowledge of how to build it. Not, I don't know, maybe how to use it, but how to build it. Like a battery or some sort of electricity generating source. So, going back to the pyramid then, there are huge angled tunnels built into the pyramid. They don't just go into the pyramid or up into the pyramid, they go deep underground. What tomb needs such a deep underground tunnel? Because a lot of these tunnels are unexplored to this day. They're known because of, like, ultrasound, electronic mapping. Kind of thing. They've had certain, and we'll get back to this later, they can put, like, tiny little drones that go through, and they actually got an endoscope, which is actually used in surgery and stuff like that. They use that to drill tiny holes in the rocks and then put the small camera through. So the idea of a tomb, right? It's meant to be sealed.
Yeah. But
there's also evidence that they used to have massive swivel doors that could be used for easy access. Apparently, the way they were engineered, they would have weighed like a couple of 100 tons or whatever of massive rock, but you could push them with just your hand to get through because of the way they were engineered, the weight and distribution and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You could just easily access. So why would they have doors when the pyramids are meant to be inaccessible?
Is this just on the Great Pyramid, this door? Or is there examples on other smaller pyramids?
I don't know. It doesn't specify. I think this video is just presuming, it is just talking about the pyramid of Giza, the Great Pyramid.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically, it suggests in this video, is it used for containment and insulation?
So so this great big swivel door, is this like a main access port into the pyramid?
Apparently,
for example, like a front door?
It was the main tunnels that lead down into the pyramid.
I wonder whether or not it was for, you know how you have things like the catacombs under churches and things like that. I wonder if it was like a way for people to be able to go and worship the dead that has then gotten lost as years have gone on because of collapses and things like that.
Maybe. But why would you build something that big?
Well, it's a monument though, isn't it? It's like a
show their wealth and splendor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because obviously
true.
the idea that we have now of the Egyptians was that it was lots of things were physical manifestations of wealth, like displaying how affluent you are by wearing rich jewelry, by wearing gold. Do you think of all the pictures of Cleopatra and people like that? They're all adorned in gold.
And again, from what little I know about ancient Egypt, I believe that the pharaohs were considered not just kings, but more like gods. And the reason that they were put in these, like mummified and put in these big pyramids and stuff, was so they could continue on to the afterlife as gods. The evidence for this is that a lot of the times they had slaves mummified with them as well to continue their servitude in the afterlife with the pharaoh.
Okay.
Now again, citation needed, but it makes sense that if you consider this man or woman to be a god, you would make the largest, most impressive looking thing possible to celebrate them.
Okay. So what if I tell you, I'm skipping ahead in terms of my notes, but what if I told you that according to this video, there's no proof of anyone or anything being buried there inside the Great Pyramid?
Oh, was there no sarcophagus found in the Great Pyramid then?
No.
Oh.
There's no mummies or anything like that. So that's what I was saying before. I can't specifically remember in the video if it says there was sarcophagi, but we'll get to that after. But there's no proof of mummies.
Well, I'm looking a bit on Wikipedia just to try and find some things to argue with, and there is a picture of a sarcophagus in the King's Chamber here.
Okay.
It's in black and white. I don't know how accurate it is, but it appears to be a picture of a sarcophagus, and not a very extravagant one, like you were saying before. It's literally just a rectangular
like blackstone
rock, with some
again,
scrapings on
we'll
the
get
wall.
to this. We'll get to
Although
that.
I guess that, just because there's sarcophagus doesn't necessarily mean that the mummification process was perfected either. So it was there, a body in there that has decayed. Because I think of mummification as Tutankhamun, with Howard Carter discovering Tutankhamun in that ornate. Is it made of gold? The sarcophagus? I can see what the sarcophagus in my head anyway. I don't know what it's made of, but
so why would they
like
put Tutankhamun?
Complete.
Why did they put Tutankhamun into a sarcophagus as ornate as that, but not put an extravagantly ornate sarcophagus into the Great Pyramid?
Maybe they hadn't. I don't know what in the timeline.
Yeah, was this the first one?
Is this the very first? Is the Giza one the very first one, and everyone came after that, and they've just time has been the biggest teller for the ability to show extravagant wealth?
Or it could be the most recent pyramid, and he was in fact a hipster and wanted to have a very minimalistic looking burial chamber.
Maybe.
Minimalistic.
He was twiddling his mustache as he died.
Twiddled his mustache.
Pyramid of Giza being minimalistic.
Yeah. I mean, he was a bit of a geezer,
Okay.
so...
He was a geezer.
The Pyramid of the Giza. So you're saying, what if it was like the first pyramid and stuff like that? What if it was built before the Egyptians even got there? What if they didn't build it?
And the Egyptians copied it.
That's a good point. Like, I guess, did the Egyptians build everything in tribute to this thing that was already there? So
you're agreeing with the statement that maybe it was already there?
Well, I can't say yes or no either way.
Yeah, so this goes on the premise that it was already there, right?
Okay.
This whole idea, so that it was built for a different purpose to just being a tomb. Because yes, in the King's Chamber, there was a sarcophagus. But we'll get to this later. Going back to the pyramid as a whole, it was once covered in white polished limestone or casing stone. Right? So a lot of this goes into the more geological stuff now, Alex.
Yes, my time
you
to
are
shine.
a geologist. So
Alex's mastermind subject.
Apparently this polished limestone was angled perfectly so it would have a flat appearance to reflect the sun like a mirror, which would give the pyramid perfect insulation. But why would they need to keep it warm or cold? Why would they need to keep mummies warm or cold if they're already dead? So yes, okay, the casing stone, you could argue, and it's potentially the main case, it might have just been to look good. Because if you imagine this massive, huge piece of architecture that is so grand, but then like has for its time an almost modern look. If it looked like a mirror, but why would it need to? Why would they have needed that? But potentially, there's another use for that. So apparently, in 1303, there was an earthquake that removed the casing stones, and they were used elsewhere. So that's why it doesn't have it on now.
Oh, okay. Wait, so just the earthquake just literally caused it all to shatter?
Yeah. Well, as you'd imagine, a building, the outer weaker parts of it would be the first things to fall off. So that's why
they
it
just
wasn't.
Slide down the slope, don't they?
Yeah, and apparently it wasn't replaced. So there's still remnants of it. They've presumed that it was covered in this polished limestone.
So I'm not sure that you could, at this time, polish limestone to an extent in which to reflect the sunlight.
Maybe not up close, but I think what it's suggesting is that from quite far away, or in the grand scheme of things, like a bigger picture kind of thing, it wouldn't make it look like a flat polished surface. But obviously, on closer inspection, or maybe you're right. Maybe they didn't have the technology or the know-how of how to do it especially on such a grand scale. What if someone else built it?
Was the whole thing covered in this limestone?
Apparently. And this isn't just this video saying this. This is actual Egyptologists suggesting this because of what they've found. I'm guessing from carbon dating and closer inspection, and they found bits of limestone all over it.
That would suggest that kind of theory would suggest then. So you're trying to mirror something that doesn't look mirrored up front. Up close, but appears mirrored many, many, many miles away, / possibly from space.
Well, potentially.
As in please park here.
Potentially.
I probably just to stay on this because I know a bit about it. I basically just say it's all to do with looks, because limestone is a very nice looking material, especially if you got it really polished, and the white limestone would contrast very well to the desert sort of look. And there's lots of examples throughout history of people making buildings look good by covering them and stuff. Here in Britain, we have all these old medieval houses, and they have the white and black sort of patchwork on them. That was literally just covered in a white cement sort of material, just because the original house was boring and brown, because it was made from basically mud, and then they put these wooden bars in between them, and it was very much a fashionable thing at the time to have your house built like this. And it was also it waterproofed it a lot as well.
So waterproofing.
Well, maybe not waterproofing, but the Nile floods a lot, so not waterproofing for rain, but flooding maybe.
So skipping ahead a bit, obviously when you see pictures and stuff, there's no evidence of any water being around the Great Pyramids, but it has been proven that the Nile used to run directly through. Yeah.
And that would make sense that they'd...
and there's probably still underground water supplies as well.
It would make sense that they build a big settlement near the source of water.
Yeah.
Well,
so was the Nile running adjacent to the pyramid?
No, it used to run
built
through
in the
it.
middle. So the pyramid was built in the middle of the Nile.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
There's evidence that it used to run directly through it. Because obviously the Nile, from weathering and stuff, the path that rivers flow will always change, right? Apparently, what this video says is that it has been proven that it used to run directly through the pyramids.
So are you insulating against water then? Are you waterproofing?
Potentially.
Rather than insulating against something, thinking about that?
But what if it is actually used to keep it warm or cold? Because it would directly reflect the sun, right?
Well, and the other thing as well is that potentially the flow of the river would keep it cold, because the water would dissipate the heat being produced from it. If we're going down electric theory, producing electricity produces a ton of heat, doesn't it? That's one of the issues with it, is dissipating that heat.
And again, going back to this thing about mummifying the pharaohs, they didn't believe that they were dead, so having the pyramid at a nice temperature for the body might have been a thing that occurred to them.
Okay, interesting.
I have a different theory, which is that it's actually all Frankenstein, and that they were trying to reincarnate and trying to reinvent the dead people by using electricity.
Well, that's a curveball. I wasn't expecting that.
Just as likely as this theory, actually.
Just as likely.
Yeah.
Well, Frankenstein.
Okay. Right, we haven't actually discussed all of it yet, so don't discount this theory completely. So another thing that the pyramid is made out of is dolomite.
Ah, I like dolomite.
So apparently, when dolomite is under pressure, it increases electric conductivity relative to the amount of pressure that's put onto it. So the more pressure that's put onto it, the more conductive it is.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Which would
about
make
that.
sense if it's built into the stone and stuff like that. I don't know exactly what part is built out of it. I either can't remember or it didn't state it in the video. But it's saying that the pyramid's massive, right? So no matter how well it's built, there's going to be pressure all the way through it because of what's all the compression and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's another thing, right? Apparently, all the passageways are lined with granite.
Okay.
So it has quartz inside it
It does.
with metal, which is
Metal?
a great source of piezo electricity, which I think I googled it slightly. I think that's just static electricity.
Okay.
Granite doesn't really have metal in it, so there's an issue there.
Well, the quartz.
Quartz doesn't have metal in it.
Is quartz conductive though?
Well, quartz can create piezoelectricity. It's used in just stuff.
Okay. So the other thing here is, are all these materials available? It feels like a lot of different rocks to be able to get a huge amount of that are just there.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess limestone is probably not far fetched at getting it because it's. Well, I don't know actually.
Okay, so this is actually skipping ahead a bit again into my notes, but apparently granite is only found about 500 miles away. Yeah, what apparently the sarcophagi, the sarcophagi, cut that out. Sarcophagi are built out of granite.
Well, granite is a intrusive igneous rock, which means that it's formed when basically a big bubble of magma is trapped underground and then it cools into a rock. So it's basically a volcanic eruption that doesn't erupt, it stays underground. So granite stays in these very tightly concentrated clumps, and some of these clumps are massive, pretty much the whole southwest of England is granite. That Dorset bit which sticks out.
Mm-hmm.
There's these big clumps of granite. I think there's 3 or 4 of them. Granite doesn't tend to be that widespread, and obviously you need a volcanic event, so it needs to be near a plate boundary. But again, plate boundaries change throughout history. They wouldn't have changed very much from here to the Egyptian times, but way before that, they would have changed a lot. And limestone is pretty widespread. It's just formed where there was a seafloor originally.
Well, would it be created from the Nile riverbed?
No.
That's what I was going to say, because the Nile, obviously, was it the mouth of the Nile that's at the apex of Africa?
The Nile would form sandstone because it's in a desert and it would be transporting grains of sand along.
So it'd be a sediment.
It would be a sedimentary rock, yeah, and also it's very shallow. The Nile.
Oh, okay.
Is it?
Compared to oceans, it's very shallow.
Oh yeah.
And the reason limestone is because it has marine material. No, it's not pressure at all. It's sedimentary rock.
Oh, okay.
It has marine material in it, so it's the grains are composed of shell fragments and.
Oh yeah.
So it's partly organic.
Yeah,
it's a fossil
very
rock,
organic.
isn't it?
Yeah,
So
it's fossiliferous.
Fossiliferous, yeah. Words.
That's a great word.
It's an actual word as well. Fossiliferous.
I'm
And
going to start using that in everyday conversation.
dolomite is just limestone which has been subjected to heat and pressure. So it's a metamorphic version of limestone.
How much heat and pressure? Would it be more like a plate boundary?
Yeah, plate boundary sort
or-
of pressures.
So if they had, so it's reasonable to think that if they had an active source of granite, they would have an accessible source of dolomite. Is
Yeah.
it the same sort of
Yeah.
area that would cause both rocks to be found?
Yeah, it is. So it's pretty likely that you see these 3 rock types together, in my opinion.
I feel like we've
Okay.
unleashed a beast here.
The power of my previous knowledge and Wikipedia has brought forth the nerd. Anyway,
let the geologist have
that's
his
my geology rant.
Okay. Basically, what it's trying to say is with the granite, though, the quartz inside the granite has properties that allow it, when put under pressure, it creates. No, it doesn't facilitate it. It creates piezoelectricity, which it suggested that it would ionize the air inside the pyramid. That would increase the conductivity.
Okay.
I'm not sure how that works.
I don't know much about conductivity in regards to geology, so I can't refute that.
Yeah, so what it's saying is basically the limestone, the dolomite, and the granite, it's actually analogous to the materials used to create electrical wires. And there's a relationship of pressure among them. Another thing is that the mortar that's used, there's about 500,000 tons of it to build the entire pyramid.
That's a lot of mortar, isn't it?
Jesus. But it's a lot of mortar, but it's also, we've not been able to recreate it. And apparently it's actually stronger than the stones used to build the pyramid. I think what the video is trying to say is that if we can't create it, how have they been able to build it? Maybe it was built before, maybe it's always been there. Maybe someone else built it with different knowledge. I don't know why we've not been able to create it. Yeah, maybe. So, basically all those materials, right? Apparently northwest of the pyramid, there's the Serapeum, which is like a sanctum, I think. It has 20 huge granite boxes, which weigh 100 tons each. Historians suggest they're coffins, so I think this is going to be very, very similar to the sarcophagi that's in the King's Chamber.
Okay.
But the materials to make these, so apparently the granite boxes are 500 miles away, and they're so large that there's no way they could have fit through the existing entrances of the Serapeum specifically. So they were obviously built into the structure. From what it's been shown is that they are built within 10,000ths of an inch of being perfectly flat.
What?
Right? Would they have been able to?
Can we even do that now?
I don't know, but apparently
that large. That seems ludicrous, doesn't it? Like that's completely mind-boggling how that would even occur.
Exactly. This is obviously what the videos said, but
yeah.
I'm guessing they're taking it from sources and references. So could be completely discounted. I don't know, but I'm just going off what it's saying. So a battery, according to any electrician or electrical engineer would know, a battery must be made entirely from the same substance, so there's no interference. So it's basically suggesting that these boxes or granite coffins are batteries.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Right.
And there was another one that's been placed into a museum, and it has imperfections on it. So instead of it, being found like that, maybe it was built, there was a crack in it, and they discarded it because they knew
maybe.
It be able to be used.
Yeah, it wasn't a functioning cell.
Yeah. What this video is saying that the sarcophagi are way too big for a human being. Going off that, the accepted theory is that they were built for the pharaoh's prized bulls.
Gotta keep those bulls safe.
Exactly.
We'll need those
ones.
in the afterlife. What else will he eat out of?
It's completely possible, if they've actually, because there is actually depictions or in terms of the carvings and stuff that they've seen, there is actually depictions of bulls with crowns on their head and stuff like that, as if they were glorified.
Mm.
But would they really make these incredibly built boxes of granite for bulls? Do
we know the dimensions of these boxes of granite?
No.
Because you said the weight of them, but rocks weigh a lot.
It's about 100 tons, but they are very big. If there was I saw a picture with a couple of humans standing next to them, and it's maybe about 20 foot long.
Oh, wow.
From the ground, it was about as tall as a human, so about 6 foot high, with the lid on top.
Are they hollow?
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
Right, so it's conceivable they could be very large, oversized coffins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or what if they are actually used as batteries? Maybe they had an acid or something inside them to hold the charge.
Maybe.
Okay. So, moving on then. In 1993, an inaccessible room was discovered in the Great Pyramid. Appeared to be completely concealed. They've now called it the Queen's Chamber. It was explored in 2011, and there was no mummies inside it.
What was in it?
There was carefully crafted copper wire built into the walls.
No, there wasn't.
Apparently.
No.
And apparently there was instructions on the floor and wall showing a wiring diagram.
What? That's madness.
Apparently, there are pictures of it. I don't know if they. There's a few different sources that I've looked into, and they have all said that although the copper wire is not there now, it was potentially stolen. So the foremost Egyptologist, Zahi al-Hawass, was actually indicted for theft. Obviously, he's now been indicted, so he's not considered. But he was the forerunner for Egyptology, at the time that this was discovered, and he was actually indicted for theft of Egyptian artifacts.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. So the idea being that everything, the way the entire pyramid's been built, is that all this conductivity, blah blah blah. What is developing the charge, I'll get to in a sec. But this charge has obviously been built up, and with this Queen's chamber, the copper wires would be able to transfer the electricity from the potential difference created inside the room. Again, I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm not 100% sure how it works, but it's a completely windowless room with copper wires, with basically nothing inside it. No coffin, no anything. The pathways leading down to it, and this was from a different video that I looked into further, the pathways leading down to it are very small. You would maybe be able to get like 2 or 3 arms inside it, so there's no way you could crawl through it. So
unless
they put this.
Maybe a child could fit through it.
Even then, I don't know.
Okay.
They put a drone inside it with a laser and everything, a wire, like not like a drilling laser, like a distance laser or whatever. And it basically went all the way down, and eventually they got to this. So this is what the original video that I was watching is referencing. Again, I'll get to it later, but the guy was called Eric von Daniken, who has wrote the book on his, belief. He basically goes towards it being aliens or, just lost knowledge and stuff like that, not what we believe the pyramids to be. So maybe this video that I watched saying that it's a power plant has taken reference from that video. But when I was on about the endoscopes and stuff like that, that's the video that referenced it. And he was basically one of the Egyptologists looking into the pyramid. He's actually been there. He's gone into parts of it and stuff like that. And he's saying that this thing that they used found the wall, and there was copper wire protruding from it, like 2 like hoops of it, if you will, built into the wall. So they weren't allowed to blow it up, go through it or anything, because obviously the Egyptian, whatever it's called, like Egyptian artifact union.
Yeah, they were trying to preserve.
Yeah, the preservationists.
The Egypt National Trust.
Yes, let's go with that. The ENT. And they basically didn't allow them to. That's thrown me off. They didn't allow it. So what they did allow is to drill a tiny hole enough to fit an endoscope through. So basically, they did that. They got all the things from it, and on the other side, it was the same thing. It was these 2 copper wires hooped and sticking out, and then that led further into the Queen's chamber.
Okay, so
and it is literally just. Yeah.
I've been quiet because I've been doing a bit of research on this. So basically, these copper wires are copper handles on a limestone door, which blocks one of the shafts, and researchers have come to the conclusion that these are completely decorative. So
why?
To make the door look cool, and also to open the door.
Yeah, but why? Because the door is tiny.
I don't know about that, but calling them copper wires is a long stretch, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's suggestive, but the way that it's built, according to this video, suggests that it would be conductive.
Yeah, but what are they connected? They're not connected to anything.
Well, that's the thing. So
you can't call them wires.
Well, you can if it's used for conducting electricity.
But the purpose of a wire is to take electricity from one place to another. And this isn't connected to a electricity source or an electricity output, so you can't call them wires.
Well, we haven't got to that.
Okay.
I guess, yeah.
Okay.
Could it
have Continue. Get to it.
Continue. There we go. So, obviously, this still requires a catalyst from another source. So what is helping to generate this electricity? Apparently, the pyramids are geographically located over natural underground rivers and aquifers, which, again, like I said before, it's true. The Nile used to run through it. There's obviously an underground water supply. So the water rising up and down and coming up through through capillary action, coming up through the limestone and stuff like that, it's basically saying it would have been able to create pressure to move the quartz.
Yeah.
And create a piezoelectricity.
Wait, what do you mean move the quartz?
That's interesting.
Well, it would have generated, as the water moves over the quartz, as it pushes up into the structure, it would create pressure.
On what? On the
rock, on everything.
The quartz is cemented in the rock. It can't move.
It lines the tunnels.
Yeah, but it's not a unbroken section of quartz. Like,
what do you mean?
Like, granite isn't only made of quartz. Quartz is like 20% of it. And they're separate crystals which aren't connected. Yeah, but it's there, but it doesn't make an unconnected wire because there's material between the quartz. Right. There's mica and
you can have electricity travel from two spots. Like
I know
if you
electricity
put
jumps,
two wires together, it can jump, right? So here's another theory, and I'm jumping ahead again, but it's relevant. I think we need to explain it. So what they're trying to say is Nikola Tesla, obviously he was very famous for a lot of the things he created, but in particular the Tesla coil, which is now used for show. But he claimed adamantly that he had learned how to distribute and harness free wireless energy using the magnetic nature of the planet. So if you look at a Tesla coil, it can arc electricity.
Yeah.
Like the ones that we've seen, it can arc electricity quite far. So what he's saying, he patented this in 1897. He claimed that at 30,000 foot into the air, at that high up, the pressure and everything, it would conduct high voltage electricity, which if you shot electricity into it, you'd be able to shoot electricity up high enough into the atmosphere to be able to distribute it, and then a receiver, something conductive, like a lightning rod or whatever, would be able to receive it.
I've definitely heard that theory before about creating wireless electricity.
Mm-hmm. So he died in poverty, and all of his stuff was confiscated, and his tower that was created was completely destroyed because the American government presumed it was being used by German spies. Like, they obviously didn't understand it or whatever. Basically, there are apparently eyewitness claims that saying that it did work, and he was able to transmit electricity from certain bits, and it lit up the night sky. But obviously, this can't be proven because all his work was confiscated.
Yeah.
It also doesn't sound very safe.
Well, no.
Arcing pure electricity through the sky.
No, taking the path of least resistance straight into somebody who's just standing next to it.
Through that aeroplane there with hundreds of people sat on it.
But lightning rods, obviously they're used specifically to attract the lightning. What if it's used in the same way, basically? One of the things, obelisks.
The Tormentor.
Like the things that look kind of like the, yes, Yu-Gi-Oh! Obelisks as in... like the Washington Monument, that kind of shape, like the point, like a pencil shape. What if they had a capstone on top of it that was like gold or something like that could receive it? So basically, the capstone is missing off the Great Pyramid. Okay, it's believed to have been gold, which would make perfect sense because it would look good with the white limestone and then gold. But obviously, this whole theory is saying, okay, yeah, it might have been to all of it to look good, but why? What if there's actually a purpose for everything? Okay, so it's basically saying this capstone is obviously it's going to be missing over the years. It's probably been nicked because it's gold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But gold is a really good conductor, and what if the electrical current or the electrical charge that's been developed through the pressure from the underground water supply, all the materials inside the pyramid reacting with that, generating charge, like ionizing the air, and then that charge is transmitted through the copper wires and then shot out through the tunnels, which are lined with quartz and the dolomite and everything, and then led up to the idea is that it's led up to this capstone and then shot into the ionosphere. The same as with Nikola Tesla's idea.
That's not a... Well, I mean, it sounds really far-fetched, but I guess if
in my notes I do have far-fetched ? And then it goes on to obviously Nikola Tesla's theory.
Yeah.
Obviously, again, there's no way to prove it, but what if, the whole point of this is speculation. So what if he did actually manage to do this? Because we know Tesla coils work, but on a grander scale, it's never been tested or proven, apparently.
This is stupid, by the way.
What?
It's ridiculous.
Why?
Just, oh god, there's so...
What? So fucking... Right, what, you're saying that dimensional travel, because a guy fell over and chased his dog, is not ridiculous, right?
It is ridiculous, but...
Well, no, there's actual proof to this.
Is there?
Like, obviously, yeah, okay, well...
Is there?
A lot more, there's a lot more proof than any of the other things we've discussed so far.
There isn't an album.
Well, okay, yeah, it doesn't have it. Or a YouTube channel or something like that. But... Right, so basically, in terms of transmitting the electricity, which is what I wanted to get to, apparently there's the similarities between an opera singer, they have to sing at a certain frequency, the resonant frequency, to shatter the glass.
Oh, right, yeah.
That can happen. So apparently that works in the same way for transferring any kind of energy. If it was in the same frequency, it would transfer that energy. And that's how you could transfer the energy from point to point. Okay, so what if it's saying that it's been engineered in such a way inside the pyramid that it's able to generate and transfer the electricity throughout the pyramid and then lead it up to a certain point to then distribute it?
Oh, okay, but why? What are they doing with all this electricity? Because there's no evidence that there's a conductive material leading into like the civilization and stuff like that they would use in the buildings. Like It all seems to be just in this one pyramid, and you haven't mentioned other pyramids, but I assume the other pyramids don't have any of this sort of stuff in them.
Well, apparently they do.
Oh, okay.
This is corrected. So it's focusing on the Great Pyramid, but it's saying that what if these pyramids were used? I mean, like you suggested, I don't know if it means every single pyramid, but because of where they're geographically located, it's like where am I looking? Hang on. So the geographic location, apparently it's exactly at a point that would magnify the electromagnetic forces of the Earth. So telluric currents, or earth current, is an electric current which moves underground or through the sea. Telluric currents result from both natural causes and human activity, and the discrete currents interact in a complex pattern. The currents are extremely low frequency and travel over large areas at or near the surface of the Earth. So this is, again, what Nikola Tesla was referencing and what this video is referencing, using the low frequencies and stuff like that to be able to transfer the energy and harness it.
I feel like this video is making a lot of statements, but not providing evidence for the statements. Well, it is. And it is providing evidence. The video just wants you to assume that what they say in the video is true.
Well, yeah, because it's going off. I on the small amount of research that I did do alongside this, there are multiple sources that not claim the same thing, but they what it's made out of. That's been proven. It's made out of all those materials. The Queen's Chamber. It's making assumptions from the evidence that's already there from historians. It's just historians and Egyptologists they have a completely different, because everyone's basically not using my words, but like clouded. They've made their assumption that it's a tomb. That's the assumption. Why wouldn't it be used? Why wouldn't such a massive, huge structure that's been so accurately built, why wouldn't it have some kind of purpose?
Because historians go with whatever is most common in that topic to reflect the majority. So most of the pyramids have sarcophagus in them with mummies and their burial sites. So therefore they would assume that the largest pyramid would also be a burial site.
Well, do the other pyramids have sarcophagi in them?
From what I understand, that's the purpose of them.
So what I think Stuart said before, what if the Great Pyramid was like the original and then other things were created in its image?
Yeah, and that's
so
definitely
the Great Pyramid itself, like I said at the start, it has no characteristics of a tomb.
Yeah, it's missing the hieroglyphics. It's missing the ornate decoration.
Yeah, like why would you be able to like access it so easily? Because they're meant to be sealed. I mean, yes, okay, maybe that's contradicting what I said because of the Queen's Chamber, but there's nothing in there apart from these copper wires and the alleged markings that give a kind of diagram.
Oh, okay. So looking it up, the Pyramid of Giza seems to be one of the earliest pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
There was a one built before it, I believe, from what little research I'm doing. But it does make sense that if it was early, then the later ones would be modelled on it. But if they didn't know what it was for, they would change the purpose of the building.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said before, historians do consensus opinion, and the consensus opinion is driven by the consensus here. But if the Egyptians made the assumption that because it was there already, it was, I don't know, maybe a relic of a god, they would then put their own pharaohs as god status in a replica of that.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So it's whether or not it is all just tribute.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a tribute.
So basically what I put in my notes, which was the main premise, why wouldn't the Great Pyramid have a more amazing use? It's everything that's about it. So the granite boxes have never contained mummies. There's no ash or soot from torches anywhere.
So it's never been
visited. It's never been... Yeah. It's aligned with the North Pole. Like if you look at like a top-down thing of it, it's like perfectly aligned.
That's crazy.
Apparently.
There's how would they have known to do that?
Exactly. How would they have known to do that?
There's literally zero.
Maybe it wasn't them. Maybe it was built before.
Yeah.
For a different purpose. Apparently, as well, there's a big electromagnetic field around the pyramids, similar to an electric storm, because of where it's located. Like I think it's on the equator and stuff like that. It's located in such a way that like I said before, the electromagnetic forces of the Earth are strongest. Apparently, there's such a big field around it. Also, basically, all signs point to the pyramids being generators for global transfer. That's the premise of the video.
Yeah, I just don't. Obviously we don't have all the information, and there would probably be other evidence to support or disprove certain arguments. But the likelihood of the Egyptians being able to know the location of the North Pole alone, to be able to line it up with that, seems impossible. Because unless they've somehow managed to visit the North Pole, map its geography, map its coordinates, and build something perfectly in line, or completely by fluke site an enormous pyramid with all these crazy magnetic, electrical conductive properties by chance, just doesn't it? I don't see how that can even happen. So, to me, this is seeming actually quite plausible that the Egyptians built things in tribute, not knowing the function of it, and it was there before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I quite like this theory.
I like it too.
I can see why it was growing on you.
Because it's not. Yes, okay, there are parts of it that are unbelievable, but people thought the world was flat, and now again, people do think the world is flat. We probably will do an episode on that eventually. We have to, right? Because we've referenced it a couple of times. People did think the world was flat, so there's just because historians now believe that it is a tomb. Why? The more evidence that gets found, because there are pyramids all over the world. You got the Mayan pyramids, you got stuff like that. I know.
Yeah, and the Mayans are associated with a lot of technology as well, aren't they? It makes you wonder if the Egyptians and the Mayans at some point both equally stumbled upon pre-existing technology or pre-existing structures that influenced them in their society and their advancements in technology and use of and kind of thinking.
Yeah. If you Google now Dendera light, so it's Dendera. So a Dendera light, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's a motif that was carved into a set of stone reliefs in Hathor Temple at Dendera in Egypt. Okay.
It looks like a light bulb.
It looks like a light
Holy
bulb.
crap.
It also looks incredibly phallic, but...
Yeah, but it looks like a light bulb, right? If you look at that, I know exactly which picture you're looking at. There is
it's
a
got a cable connecting from it as well.
Yeah,
it looks like
into
in
a
the
receiver. Into a receiver or a battery or whatever.
That is madness.
So people think, I can't remember what the video said that historians believe it to be.
It's a relief, it's a mythological depiction of the Jed pillar and a lotus flower spawning a snake within, representing aspects of Egyptian mythology, according to Wikipedia.
Right. Yeah, that does sound familiar. So what if it is actually a bulb? Basically, to the right of it, the thing that's holding like a knife, that's a very serpentine figure, like a snake-like humanoid, which obviously could be one of the gods. But what the video that I saw is trying to say is that they've harnessed this, but the god is trying to say, don't use it, it's dangerous, or be careful, or whatever. That's the speculation of that. If you look at like different pictures of it, and then yes, okay, that's a snake inside, but what if that's like the filament?
This is really cool.
Oh, I didn't even know it was a snake. I saw it as the filament. I didn't even see it as a snake. But yeah, it looks like a snake.
It does, yeah. On closer, I'm looking closer at it, but it's basically saying, you know, what if there is proof? Okay, yeah, we can't find it. We can't find the actual. You're right in what you're saying, and that's where I'm actually a bit speculative, because like, what use would there have been? Yes, okay, yes, let's presume that this Great Pyramid is a massive source of energy. Okay, what would they have used that energy for? What would have received it, and why? My theory is, what if? Okay, it's far fetched. I don't really like the idea of aliens in any of the theories, but what if it was used, like you said, as a landing pad, but then it's also a power station? What if it's a fuel stop?
This Dendera light is so cool.
Yeah.
This is evidence I like, where it's an actual physical thing you can see. And you can debate what it is as much as you want, but that looks like a light bulb. And it's got like
it looks like a light bulb.
It's got like the stand on it with the coils, and it's really weird.
Look for the Dendera light at Mystery Park. There is a physical reconstruction in Switzerland. This is obviously going off the presumption that it is an electronic lamp, because obviously loads of people are trying to work out exactly what it is.
Did they have glass during this time? I don't believe they did.
They had enough sand.
If they can make a massive pyramid, maybe they can make glass.
Probably make a light bulb, yeah.
Or maybe they didn't make it. Maybe something else with... Right, okay, so this guy I mentioned before, Eric von Daniken, was a different video that I watched. He was one of the historians working on the pyramid. He believes that the pyramids are much older. One of the things that he references, which I've just remembered, is, which I can't, I'm not a historian, so I can't remember the exact like terms he used, but the idea that there's a progression of knowledge from what he's managed to get together on the timelines of stuff. There's no way that they could have known how to build this pyramid, regardless of whether it's a power plant or not, in the time that they had and the timeline of where it is. The knowledge of everything they had that they've been able to piece together suggests that they didn't know how to build this pyramid at the time that it was, found. Or basically he went through different scholars and historians of that time, and everyone refers to it as being built before they got there.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what I mean. There's apparently a couple of historians who believe that it's one group of people or one person that ordered it being built, but then you go back to someone who's been there before that person is allegedly there, and they said it was already built. Mm-hmm. In terms of the knowledge of how extreme the architecture is, obviously, yeah, we mentioned the boxes being built and they're almost like perfectly flat within 10,000ths of an inch or whatever. That is incredible as well, but the way that the tunnels are built, the alignment, if you think now if you're building a tunnel under somewhere, you dig it from both sides, don't you? And then using complex instruments, I don't know much about it, but I know that's how they do it. You dig it from both sides, you meet perfectly in the middle. And if that's slightly out of alignment, you're screwed. So you have to get it perfect. So how have
and that's using modern instruments.
So how have they managed to build these tunnels that they perfectly meet?
Again, this is assuming, though, that they build the tunnels from both sides. Whereas if they just built it in one direction, it would be perfectly lined up.
That is true.
So yeah, I agree. But the way that the shafts and stuff are aligned, like the Queen's Chamber, I think, is directly in the middle. Okay. So
was the chamber built first and dug away from?
Maybe, but even then, apparently the shafts are like perfectly aligned, so they're symmetrical. Which obviously, yes, okay, if you went off, like, you could judge it by the amount of stones that you used. If they're all the same size.
Yeah, and if you were building it in layers, the layers would be parallel, so you just follow the layer.
But then they must have built every single stone to the same size, if you know what I mean. So another thing that this Eric von Daniken fella says is that they were very attuned to the gods, the Egyptian gods. Obviously, they were very religious in that respect, right? Apparently, okay, this is what he's saying, is that the tunnels are aligned in such a way that, I think he said the 21st of March, they directly point to two star systems. So like Orion's Belt and something else. I can't remember exactly what he said.
Okay, but
how would they...
That's just saying things, though. Like, it's not related to anything.
Well, no. But would they have had the know-how and the knowledge to be able to build it? That's what he's trying to say. So it's related in that way. I've omitted a lot of stuff from the Eric von Daniken one, because it's not directly related to the pyramid being a power plant.
Yeah.
It's just related to saying that we don't know... everything we presume about the pyramids and when it was built and the history of it is wrong. And that it was actually a lot older. Stuff like referencing the Great Sphinx of Giza, which is nearby. The weathering on it is vastly different. Which, if it was covered in limestone...
It's in a different place. Like, it's nearby, but it's not right nearby.
Okay, so it's not the other side of the world.
Yeah, but wind patterns
it's still
are different,
nearby.
Even in close proximity.
How far away are they?
I mean, you can see them near each other, but I imagine they're probably
a
couple hundred meters away.
If you can see them.
Yeah, but...
Surely there's not going to be a completely different pressure system.
No, but in terms of prevailing wind direction, because most of the weathering you get on these structures would be from sandblasting via wind.
Mm-hmm.
It's a stretch to say just because...
So you're saying the direction?
Yeah, I'm saying the prevalent wind direction in the area would weather the two monuments differently.
Would the intensity of the wind change?
Yeah.
Or be different?
If one was in a hollow and one was on a slight hill.
Are they?
I don't know.
Because as far as I know, it's quite a...
But again, I'm much like this video,
I'm
throwing out facts and not providing any evidence for them.
No, but yeah, obviously that's what we're here to do. We're here to speculate, right? So that is the main bulk of what I've got written down.
Mm-hmm. I think it's plausible to believe that dating these structures is difficult because you can't physically date the structure, you can only date the things in it. So while you were going on about the age of these pyramids, I sort of looked up how they dated them. And the general way they did it was radiocarbon dating of seeds and material inside the pyramids. So that's just to say that the thing they've put inside the pyramid made of wood is this old, like 3,000 years old. But that doesn't say that the structure was there already and they've just put it into the structure. So they're extrapolating the age of the things in it and assuming that's the age that the structure was built at, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some definite issues with aging the pyramids, in my opinion. But the thing about the other theory you brought up about the battery sort of stuff, I think that's pseudoscience, and it stretches a lot of the facts and the ability for these materials to conduct electricity. I
mean, I'm not saying you're wrong, but...
Yeah, you better not be.
You're wrong. I'm not an electrician. I'm not an engineer. I'm not I haven't got the knowledge in this area to be able to discount what you're saying, and I don't know if you have as well.
No,
you
not really.
definitely have a lot more when it comes to geology and different types of rocks and stuff like that. But quartz is used for electrical conductivity. It's used in watches. It can generate piezoelectrical charge. That's proven.
Yeah, but it's
There's
specifically designed
copper wiring.
quartz to do that, whereas just natural quartz in granite, which again, there isn't much quartz in granite. It's like 20%.
20%'s a lot.
Not really, considering the rest of it
Well,
is.
well, dolomite as well. When it's under pressure, it's conductive. Like, is that wrong?
I'm not sure. I don't. Making a statement like pressuring a rock increases its conductivity would then work for every rock type, because the way I'm imagining that works is that they're putting pressure on it and it pushes the crystals in the rock closer together to allow the electricity to transfer through it more easily.
Okay.
Therefore, if you've got any rock with some level of conductivity, putting pressure on it would increase that conductivity.
So what you're saying is that there's a chance. So is dolomite conductive? Because apparently it is, according to the video, which increases pressure, and so does granite. Because it's basically saying that with quartz, when you move it, it creates piezoelectricity. That it creates static. So obviously, static is made from ways that I don't know, but it's saying that quartz is one of the ways that this is made. So that ionizing the air inside the closed chambers and the tunnels, it would create potential difference, causing electrical currents. And it's basically saying that the deep underground, it's actually called, in quotes, the pit, because they assumed it to be unfinished and stuff like that. And perhaps it is unfinished. What if whoever's building it didn't completely make it up inside? And that's why they would never use... This is what I've just realised, or just had a thought of. What if it was never actually 100% built to be 100% functional? What if they got raided and the gold was missing off the top?
Yeah.
So they never had a chance to build it. And then if this was the first one and everything else was built in its design or whatever, or like the obelisks and all around the world, whatever, what if they never actually finished the full network? And that's why nothing was made to accommodate for it.
Mm-hmm. But again, if they had access to copper, which they clearly did based on these door handles, why wouldn't they just use door handles? Why wouldn't they just use the copper to make wires? Because it's way, way more conductive than base rock types.
What if they didn't have enough of it?
Perhaps.
On such a grand scale, don't forget, this isn't just like a small thing. The pyramid is huge. So if you think the bigger the power plant, the more electricity it's going to generate, apply that to the pyramid. It's such a big thing that even if nothing, everything in it is like subpar for conductivity and static electricity generation or whatever, because words and I'm not a whatever. What if, because of the size of it, it's able to generate enough, if you know what I mean? So you're saying, okay, yeah, it might have been better to build it with copper, but what if whoever built it, what if they didn't realize that copper was the better thing, or they didn't have enough of it?
Well, the fact that you've put so much emphasis on these copper handles as conductors in the whole system of this pyramid would assume that they knew that copper was very conductive material. Yeah.
So what if they didn't have enough of it to build?
Well, I imagine
entire.
I'm not saying
wires.
Entire, but I imagine they would have had more than just enough to make the two handles.
What if they didn't need it? What if the system would have worked perfectly with what they had? Like I said, if it was big enough. What if they just didn't need it, but they only needed it for certain parts to make it?
Yeah, perhaps transmitting current across a part where there was not enough static generated or something like that because of imperfections.
Because again, if you think of the Tesla coil, if it can transfer the electricity like wirelessly and arc it, obviously this is still speculation, but it's either directed up towards the capstone, and then that shoots the electricity out, but it's also suggested that the tunnels, because obviously they're lined with conductive material, they would be the things that shoot or direct or convey the energy, the electrical energy out and direct it towards the ionosphere or towards a receiver or whatever.
Towards these giant stone boxes, which are, I'm assuming, to be batteries.
That's the premise of what they're trying to go with.
Mm-hmm.
And because obviously they were in the what was it called, the Serapeum. The
Serapeum, that was it.
They found 20 of these huge granite boxes. What if that was maybe that was the battery? Maybe there was a way that they could transfer the energy generated by the pyramid to store in there, because there's no evidence of there being mummies inside these boxes. And we've seen sarcophagi for actual pharaohs. Like the Tutankhamun one is iconic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's
very cool.
Gold. It's incredibly crafted. Ornate is the best word. But why would they make such, not bland, but just black granite boxes? Why would they make them so particular?
Boring looking, yeah. Because again, they could
unless they had a functional
covered
use.
them in white limestone and polished it and made it look kind of cool, like the outside of the pyramid.
Yeah, maybe. So yeah, maybe the premise is that they made these boxes and they were planning on decorating them. But isn't that counterproductive?
Or perhaps
why would they
did
them?
Decorate them and it's just been weathered away over time.
Yeah, the same earthquake might have.
But again, they're going
damage.
back to the fact that they're too big for humans. They're way too big. So why would they have built them so massive? Obviously, yes, the argument then is
to show affluence.
Why do you build affluence and stuff like that? But then why would historians also believe that they were for the emperor's prized bulls?
The other thing as well, we
pharaohs,
mentioned briefly before, is are they so big because some pharaohs were buried with all their slaves?
Yeah, another point.
Is it like a mass burial? Is it like a mass burial site?
Maybe.
Is there evidence that they found bodies in these?
Well, not in the Great Pyramid, and not apparently in the Serapeum, inside the granite boxes.
Sure, okay, right, fine.
Yeah, this is really cool, actually.
This is a really cool theory.
Yeah, I got you.
You were right.
It's a cool premise, but
it is a cool premise.
It angers me.
The first time I watched the video, I was like, yeah, all right, whatever. But then I watched it a bit more, and I started to think about it. It's like, well, even if it's not true, like with the other theories we've discussed, it's really interesting, and you kind of want it to be true.
You want it to be true. I think the difference between probably me and Sean and then Alex is that Alex has a lot of more understanding over the geological side of it, which makes him have doubts. Whereas me and Sean lack that area of expertise, so that we don't have those intrinsic doubts about this story, which I think is why we probably believe it more. I think this is a really cool theory. For me, overall, I would probably say that from what we've discussed, these were pre-existing and the Egyptians have built tributes towards it.
Yeah. That's the premise. Yeah.
And that's the theory that I think is most fitting with what we've talked about. Obviously, Alex, you might differ your opinion because of the nature of how the pyramid would function in the way that we've spoken about it functioning. But do you have any concrete thoughts over whether or not you think...
Before we conclude, I just want to say as well that a lot of the pyramid is believed to still be unexplored. What this guy mentioned, Eric von Daniken, he said that obviously they discovered more in the 1990s, and they actually explored those parts in 2011 or wherever it was. I can't remember the exact time that I said.
I think it's 2011.
Yeah. So he's basically saying that there's one historian from that time, like 2,000 years ago, whatever, that believes that there's a library inside the Great Pyramid, or inside pyramids in general, of all the writings of the knowledge of whoever built it.
Okay.
And that wasn't a premise that the historian believed. That's apparently what was true. And then that's obviously what modern historians have read. And with all the new information that's been coming out, it's been revisited, and then it's not being discarded as just complete crap, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because the more they discover about the pyramid, the more it's like, oh, hang on, maybe it's not completely true. Not completely false.
Yeah, the more doubts you get in the widely accepted belief that it's a burial structure.
Mm-hmm.
So shall I sort of cover what I think as a final thought?
Go ahead.
I kind of line up with Stuart in the fact that there's issues with dating these structures, and it's highly possible that these could have been around way before the Egyptians as a superpower were in that area, and they could have, again, styled all their burial pyramids on this one original large pyramid which was there. But the all the battery stuff, it's a cool thing to think about, and it's a cool thing to debate, but I don't think the science works, and this might be me throwing my geology knowledge into it, but
this might also be me not presenting.
Perhaps if I watch the video myself.
I will link you to it after.
Yeah. Do you want to say what video it is for the listeners to go to?
Yeah, we'll tweet it out as well.
We'll tweet it out. It was on YouTube. The channel was called The Universe Inside You.
Okay.
It's a really clickbaity title, to be honest.
Is it Pyramid's True Purpose Finally Discovered?
Yeah. So the title of the video is Pyramid's True Purpose Finally Discovered, Advanced Ancient Technology.
Okay, so that's there if you want to watch this video and see how much we butchered it.
We'd love to know your thoughts, though.
Get in touch with us on Twitter, @RomePodcast.
Yeah, we'd love to know what you think, because obviously you can see that based on our own knowledge and sort of pre-existing understandings of certain areas of science and technology, that we all have very differing opinions, and it sways our opinion over how believable we think these are. So you might have experience of something else. You might be an electrical engineer who can explain conductivity to us. Let us know what you think.
Definitely. So do you want to give some thoughts, Sean? It seems like you think this is quite plausible.
Well, with my limited knowledge, I'm going off what the video says and the different things that I've looked into. I'm hoping that the claims that this video is making in terms of the science side of it is accurate. So the fact that, the whole electrical conductivity and all the references it makes and what the pyramid's made out of, I'm going off the fact that they're going off actual research and science that's been done by scientists and historians.
You're blindly agreeing to what they're telling you.
Well, I'm not agreeing with it. I'm not usually interested in this sort of stuff. As in, I don't subscribe to it, these sort of theories. But this is one of the first ones that I've seen, which is actually not a pile of wank.
Okay.
Basically, I do think it could be, after everything I've said, and the fact that I've slowly changed your minds to being, nah, that's not true, to, well, actually, no, it's plausible. But obviously, with our limited knowledge, you've got way more in terms of the geology of it and stuff like that. But is it completely untrue? Who knows?
Who knows? Much like all these mysteries.
Who knows?
But I definitely think that light bulb picture is so cool.
That's the big thing for me, that I'm just like, how can that have existed without?
This is going off the premise that it is a light.
Yeah.
Like a primitive light bulb.
Yeah.
Because obviously everyone's got different depictions of it. It could be something.
Yeah, true.
I mean, we can.
Yeah, we've seen that picture in the
in
the context of discussing a particular scenario. If you were talking about something completely different and then suddenly showed that picture, you would be influenced by the topic of conversation. So it might be that we're just looking at it purely seeing, oh, this is all about electrical conductivity. Oh my God, it's a light bulb.
Yeah. And also, if you showed that to someone who didn't know what a light bulb was, they might say it looked like something completely different.
That's true.
Yeah, like a bubble with a snake
that
in
lines
it.
up with their own context of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, in summary, built by a giant squid. Giant squid ran the place using his tentacles to whip the slaves into shape. And they made some power, I guess. And
then they trapped it inside a bubble.
Trapped it inside a bubble.
And that's what the Dendera light is.
Yes.
It's one giant squid tentacle.
Perfect. I think we've wrapped that neatly into a bow right there.
Yeah, certainly have. Thanks for bringing that one, Sean.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It was fun to look into.
Thanks, Sean. Very cool.
That sounded a bit sarcastic.
But that's the Kanye reference. Thanks, Kanye. Very cool.
Oh, yeah.
On that note.
On that note.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Ramblings of a Madman. If you enjoyed, please give us a review on Apple Podcasts and spread the word. Show your friends, show your mum, show your dog. Get in touch with us on Twitter at Roam Podcast, that's ROAM Podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Bye!